As Hollywood has evolved and moved away from the traditional genre conventions, the myth of the frontier presented in Western films has also changed. This essay will attempt to highlight the differences between classic and modern Westerns in how they present the false myth of the American frontier.
Walk West.
Firstly, I will look at John Ford's Stagecoach, then look at the Coen brothers' No Country for Old Men. Slotkin writes on Stagecoach in his book Gunfighter Nation. He comments on the ending of the film and its relationship with frontier mythology. He says that if this was a progressive historical epic like Dodge City, we might expect to find in Lordsburg an improvement on the social order of Tonto. This isn't what Ford offers the audience. Instead, he shows Lordsburg as being very similar to Tonto. It is a place in which our characters aren't rewarded for their actions across their journey on the trail. Dallas and Ringo do get their happy ending, though it isn't on the American frontier, as with the help of Doc and Curly, they're able to escape to Ringo's ranch just across the border in Mexico. To quote Slotkin again, in Stagecoach, Ford uses the language of the Western as a tool of inquiry and analysis, exploring and questioning the fundamental assumptions about American communities that underlie self-congratulatory formulas of the epic Western and the history textbook. He is questioning in this ending how the promising frontier isn't so forgiving and full of opportunity, because if it was, there would be a place for Dallas and Ringo on the Great Plains. I contest Slotkin's ideas here, as I think the way in which Ford shows the trail, with beautiful shots of the landscape, compared to how Tonto and Lordsburg are represented, shows the romanticisation of the frontier. Furthermore, Ford portrays Lordsburg as this dirty, expressionist town, and isn't a place in which Dallas and Ringo are able to live out the rest of their lives. The place where they are, however, is on a ranch, away from civilization, and I don't think that Ringo and Dallas leaving America to this ranch is what Ford wishes us to focus on. I instead believe that the focus is on the ranch itself, and the fact that they're living away from the towns and cities that have villainized them, which supports this romanticized idea of the Western myth. Finally, I think it's important to refer to the production context of the film, as during the studio system, Hollywood was very concerned about genre. To quote Andrew, genre serves a precise function in the overall economy of cinema, and this was very much the case in classical Hollywood. The Western genre is traditionally about showing the open country and landscapes as a place of opportunity and somewhere that anyone can go to seek fortune and prosper. Ford was working under the studio system when making this film, and so I don't think he would be concerned about challenging the frontier myth. Instead, I think it is Ringo and Dallas's literal ride into the sunset, where they can live in the countryside and be free from corrupt civilization. In regard to modern interpretations of the Western genre, Joel and Ethan Coen's No Country for Old Men from 2007 is one that I think is particularly interesting when considering the way that the frontier is represented. The film concerns Llewellyn Moss, a welder who, when out hunting, stumbles upon $2 million at the scene of a cartel shootout. Taking the money, he is hunted down by psychopathic hitman Anton Chigurh, who is also being chased by Sheriff Ed Tom Bell and bounty hunter Carson Wells. The film opens with still shots of open country. As the sun rises across the landscape, Ed Tom Bell delivers a monologue to the audience about how he considers the world now to be barbaric. Nathy states in No Country for Old Men, Encounter with Evil, or The Spirit of the Depths, that, right here, Ed Tom Bell is telling us about his dilemma. It's not lack of courage to do the job, but something about current crime has passed beyond his understanding, and he has a sense that working to fight it will put him into a world that mystifies and horrifies him. Furthermore, this is where we are introduced to Anton Chigurh, who serves as a physical manifestation of this evil Ed Tom is referring to, as following this opening, he is seen strangling a deputy to death with his handcuffs after he is arrested. This opening immediately links to the mythology of the West, and how the people of today romanticize the past and think of it as being a better time. Slotkin notes that we are in the process of giving up a myth/ideology that no longer helps us see our way through the modern world, but lack a comparably authoritative system of beliefs to replace what we have lost. And I believe this is exactly the dilemma that the character Ed Tom is in. He is just yet to realise it. Later in the film, Ed Tom visits his cousin Ellis and attempts to confide in him. Ellis asks about Ed Tom quitting his job, to which he ignores his question before he is asked about it again.
I feel overmatched. I always figured when I got older, God would sort of come into my life somehow.
Following this statement, Ellis tells him a story about how his Uncle Mac was shot and killed on his front porch 80 years ago, and that his auntie had to bury him the following morning. He then tells Ed that his problems ain't nothing new. This is a defining moment in the film, and it emphasises the theme of Ed losing his faith and mythology about how things used to be. It also links back to Slotkin's quote, "We are in the process of giving up a myth/ideology," and I believe that this is the moment when Ed truly loses his romanticised idea about how the past was, which is fundamentally what the myth of the American West is about. I also think that Llewellyn's arc in the film is important when analysing how the film subverts classic Western tropes. In traditional Westerns, the male hero usually ends the film having overcome obstacles and ultimately gets his victory. As Mitchell wrote, not only is the Western a genre that allows us to gaze at men, this gaze forms such an essential aspect of the genre that it seems covertly about just that, looking at men. I think that this is interesting, as in No Country for Old Men, the Coen brothers don't show the death of Llewellyn Moss on screen, robbing the audience of the opportunity to see the hero fall or succeed. This isn't a film that supports the idea of the Western hero embodying the spirit of the frontier. Llewellyn is punished at every moment he tries to do something good or heroic. Additionally, the threats that Llewellyn is up against are so grand that it seems impossible for a human being to fight against them. The cartel is so powerful as an organisation, and Chigurh is so inhuman that even someone like Llewellyn, who embodies the mountain man spirit, is unable to overcome these threats. These are just some ways in which filmmakers have tackled the themes of the American frontier. Where Stagecoach seems to support the idea of the West, No Country for Old Men, shows a world in which its characters are losing this ideology. In the world of No Country for Old Men, there is no glorified ending for the mountain man who embodies this spirit of the frontier, because there is no such thing.